Hi, my name is Camilo Gonzalez, and I'm here to give a speech about my father, Camilo Gonzalez Sr. With me today, I have my mom, Georgie Gonzalez. I have my oldest son, Alexander Gonzalez. And behind the camera, I have my youngest son, Daniel Gonzalez. Like I said, I'm here to give a speech about my father, Camilo Gonzalez. And he was born on September 12th, 1955. And he had 9 siblings. And he was born in the small pueblo of Juchipilas in the state of Zacatecas in Mexico. And like I said, he grew up on a farm, and he attended school, but most of his lifetime as a child and a teenager, he was on a farm. But he knew that he wanted to be, something greater. He wanted to do something more and above and beyond than just being a farmer and a son of a farmer. So he was able to accomplish this by learning English, learning a high quality skill that was in demand at the time, which is welding. And then he also was able to come over here into the country, and eventually wanted to bring his family over here little by little. Like I said, he grew up on a farm. He had that lifestyle for most of his life, and he went into school all the way like everybody else. He was in elementary school up until 4th grade, and he went up until 4th grade until my grandpa Jose Gonzalez ended up pulling him out of school because he needed help, more hands around the farm. And as most people know, there's the farming lifestyle is very difficult. It's very demanding, very grueling. From you got to work from sun up to sundown, so it's like an all day thing. But as I mentioned before, he wanted more than just that. And besides what he wanted, his dreams was above and beyond what the government of Zacatecas was going to allow him. Because from what I remember him telling me, it was very difficult, and there was only so much room. There was like a glass ceiling where you could only go so high. Anyway, so eventually, as a teenager and as a young adult, he came over here to the United States, and he was doing the bachelor lifestyle. He came over here. He was exploring, and he was like a scout for his family, trying to see if because he heard from members of his community that the United States was the land of plenty, the land of opportunity. So he came over here, and then he started exploring, and then he did his thing, and then he eventually he went to bars, he went to all these different places, and he went to clubs as well, and that's eventually he met my mom. And then they started talking, they conversed, and then they had drinks, and eventually my sister, and myself were born. And anyway, like I said, he wanted, he had his new family, and he wanted, to provide more. He wanted to have a better lifestyle. At this time, while he was, starting a new life with my mom, he was also a certified AWS welder, and so he was doing that skill because he knew at the time it was a high-paying job, and with this high-paying job, and it was a high-demand job, that he was going to be able to help provide for his new family, which was my mom, myself, and my sister, and it was also going to help him accomplish, help his family reach that happiness, that moment of happiness. And so he had his new family, but he wasn't quite settled yet. He wasn't happy yet because he still needed to bring his family over. He couldn't fully rest and enjoy himself. So eventually, with me and my sister being born, he had to bring his family over by whatever means necessary. He brought them over, from the state of Zacatecas to eventually Fresno, California, and then they eventually, moved on. But he did this by borrowing my and my sister's birth certificates, and being able to smuggle them over little by little by when it was time to come over to cross the border into the United States. And as I mentioned, he was one of the first in his family to learn English, and so little by little he helped to establish a better lifestyle for his parents and his siblings. Um, and also, he even now that he brought his family over, and he had his new family that he helped that just created, he wasn't quite ready yet to settle. He was happy, but he knew he was far from his dream. So eventually, he got together with my mom, he talked with her, and eventually they bought their first house in 1996 in the city of Bell. As soon as he got that house, he was the most happiest and most proudest I've ever seen him. He was always, happy because he had his family, his new family, and he had his mom and dad and brothers and sisters in the country. So, and I remember he was always so happy that he would always, wake up around 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, sometimes even earlier. And he would always, be so happy. He would go walk to the garage, and what would he do? He would be blasting his favorite music, which would be rancheras and, well, basically Mexican music, right? He loved that stuff, and sometimes I think he played that music just to annoy my mom sometimes because it was so loud. But at that moment, I know me as a child, as his son, I didn't understand why. Maybe my mom didn't quite understand why either. But reflecting on all his struggles and for him to be getting to where he's at that moment, you could understand why he would be so happy. He would, wake up with a smile on his face, and he would have a joke in his heart, ready to, spread throughout, the house and the community. And there was always one phrase that he would always, salute his neighbors, his friends. Like I'm not a huge a speaker of Spanish, even so excuse my accent or whatever. So what I remember he would always greet his friends would be, "Cómo va este buen Vidoria?" In my translation, what I got from it was like him saying, like, how is this beautiful life, and how, or something along the lines of like how is this life treating you? How is this beautiful grand life is treating you? And for me to hear this constantly, it was no, it was, after a while, it was no big deal. It was like his salute thing. But then, like I said, after reflection, you understand, all the little struggles he's gone through. You can understand why he would be so happy, like, this beautiful life. He went through all these struggles, to get to where he's at. He has his all his family around him. He has his own house. He has his own cars. He has his own, prospering, job. And we lived there for like about 20 years or so until tragedy struck. And, eventually he developed a acute case of dementia. And he got progressively worse. We took him to, physicians and doctors and to try to get a confirmed diagnosis, but they could never pinpoint exactly what it was. So we stuck around with him, and we tried to help, better him and heal him as much as we could, but it just got progressively worse. And I would talk to him as a young adult to try to talk to him, and I would explain myself over and over, read myself, but all I would get would be like a blank stare, and that was, you could tell that was gonna be, he was just deteriorating. Anyway, so with that in mind, it just got worse and worse until he finally ended up passing away. I believe it was April 29th, 2016. So like I now as I'm getting older and in these classes, I can appreciate, and I love everything that he's done for us, my dad and my mom. And hearing both of their stories, I understand that they both had their struggles. My dad has had his a dose. He had his struggles that he needed to deal with in his pursuit of happiness. So like as growing up, I didn't appreciate him, but now looking back, I wish I would have had bonded with him more. I was intimidated by him growing up, but looking back on that, I wish I would have, sat down with him, talked with him, and extract any kind of knowledge that a son should have gotten, out of his father, because I know now more than ever I could use his help in many different fields in my life right now. But like I said, his efforts and his works are not forgotten, and I know now that with his help and my mom's help, I'm headed now in the right direction. And for that, I thank both my parents and my dad, especially for the struggles that he had to deal with. Thank you.